Hi everyone, it's Lisa Mears here, and today I'm going to be making a slimline card using this stamp set from the Sassy Club. And this stamp set is called Godmother, and it is a Cinderella themed stamp set. So this is a 4x6 stamp set. You can see it has Cinderella's carriage. It also has some of the birds and the mice and Cinderella and the fairy godmother. And then there are also a few sentiments on this stamp set. Some of the sentiments are bibbidi bobbidi boo, live a life like there's no midnight, and make a wish. So this is the first time that I'm working with a stamp set from the Sassy Club. I have seen this company on Instagram, and all of the cards that I've seen using stamps from this company have always been so adorable and have always caught my eye because they have a lot of stamps relating to different character themes such as Care Bears, Strawberry Shortcake, Hello Kitty, Pac-Man, Winnie the Pooh, Snoopy, Scooby-Doo, and there's so many more, but they also don't just have character themes, they have other stamps as well. But all of these character themes, they brought me back to my childhood, and I just loved all of these stamp sets. So I'm going to be working with the Godmother stamp set today because I love the movie Cinderella, and I thought I would make a really nice slimline card using all of the stamps on this set. So here I'm using my Misty, and I'm stamping out all of the stamps in this stamp set using Memento Tuxedo black ink, and I'm stamping it onto my Spectrum Noir Ultra Smooth cardstock because I'm going to be doing some Copic coloring. And I'm going to have all of the colors that I use on my stamps today listed in the description box of this YouTube video. So if you want to use any of the same colors, you can check the description box and follow along down there with the colors that I am using. So I also want to mention that not only have I seen the Sassy Club stamps on social media, but I actually picked up my stamp set from the Scrapbook Expo. I did attend the Scrapbook Expo in Orlando back in May, and they had a booth, and when I was looking through all of their stamps, I just loved all of them. They were so darling. So I did meet Sandra, who is, I believe she's the owner designer of these stamps, and I picked up a few of these, and I'm just going to be working with the Godmother stamp set today, but I do have a few others that I picked up as well. And the Sassy Club does have a website where you can purchase their stamps, and I will link their website in the description box of this YouTube video, as well as a link to the stamp set that I'm using today. So when I was looking for colors to color this stamp set, I did a search on Google to see what the colors were of Cinderella's outfit, as well as all of the stamped images, because I wanted this to closely match the colors that were in the original Cinderella classic movie. So I used some browns for her dress and a blue for her sleeve, making the front of her apron white, but I did add a little bit of gray to the edges just to add some shadow so that it doesn't look so flat. So I'm going to go ahead and finish up coloring the Cinderella image, and I'll be right back when I get to the fairy godmother. So for the fairy godmother, I'm using some blue violet colors to color her up. And I'm starting out here with my BV04, which is my darkest blue violet, and just outlining the edges here. And I'm only going to be using two blue violet colors. I'm going to come in with the BV01, which is my lightest, but I'm going to take that light color and I'm going to put the BV01 on the tip of the BV04 just to get a little bit of that darker color on the tip, because I don't have a color that's in between these two colors. And if I just add the BV04 and the BV01, I found that I wasn't getting a very good blend. So by taking some of that dark color on the BV04 and putting it on the tip of the BV01, I was able to get a little bit of a darker color and then blend that out to light. So that's how you can use your Copics when you don't have a color in the middle. My color actually was dried up, so I couldn't use it, so I then decided to use this tip to tip method to color up the fairy godmother's outfit. So when I searched on Google for the color of the fairy godmother's outfit, I did find that the inside of her sleeve had this brighter purple color. So I'm going with some of my violet markers. So I'd use the V01 and V04 for the inside of her sleeve. And for her hair, I am using some of my cool gray markers. I'd use the C4 as the darkest, the C2, C1, and C0. When you're coloring hair, it's important to use a flicking motion for your Copic marker rather than just putting some color down and then going in circles to blend it. When you do hair, you want to hold your tip straight up on the paper and flick up and down so it looks more realistic. So when I initially colored Gus, I colored his hat thinking that his hat was an ear. So I just crossed him out and I restamped him and I'm coloring him again. So for the body of both of the mice, I used the E37 and E34. And for Gus's hat, I'm using some greens. For Jack's hat, I used some reds. And then I'll use a yellow for Gus's shirt. And for their nose, I added a pink color. And for the birds, I'm coloring the bottom of the wings in a darker blue. And then I'll cover the top of the wings in a lighter blue. So I'm using a border die from Sunny Studio Stamps, and I'm going to die cut this piece of Bristol Smooth cardstock. It gives me 2 hillside borders, and I'm going to use these 2 as my hills in my scene. I'm also using a scallop slimline die from Trinity Stamps for the background of my card, and I die cut that also out of Bristol Smooth cardstock because I'm doing some ink blending with my Distress Oxide inks, and I like how the Bristol Smooth cardstock works with the Distress Oxide inks. It really gives me a really good blend. So I started out with the top of that card panel with the Seedless Preserves ink, and now I'm coming in with the Distress Oxide picked raspberry ink. These colors are very close. The Seedless Preserves has a little bit more purple in it than the picked raspberry. They are very close in color and they blend so nice. I am going to come back in with the Seedless Preserves and just add another layer of ink just to darken it up a little bit more so more of that purple shows through. And then I'll come back in with the picked raspberry and blend those 2 colors together. I'm going to follow this with the Kitsch Flamingo Distress Oxide ink, which is a little bit lighter pink. So I'll put that underneath the 2 other colors that I had already laid down. And I'll bring that all the way to the bottom of that card panel. So my card panel goes from a dark at the top to a medium tone in the middle and then very light at the bottom. I want to add some interest to this background, so I'm going to spray a little bit of this Sparkle Sheer Shimmer Spray to my background. And then once I spray it down, I just let that soak into the background for just a second, and then I'll put a paper towel over it. And when I lift the paper towel up, you can see all of that sparkle, and it actually pulled some of the ink from the cardstock, and all that sparkle and shine shows through. I think that's so pretty, and I wanted it to have a lot of sparkle because I am making a Cinderella card, and I wanted to have a really magical background. So here I'm taking the 2 hillside borders that I cut out, and I'm going to ink these up with some Distress Oxide Mode Lawn ink. So I'm just going to put some of the Mode Lawn over top of these white die cuts. Now if you wanted to, you can just die cut the border die out of just some green cardstock. And you could also, if you didn't want to ink up the background, you could have also just die cut the scalloped border die out of some pink cardstock instead of doing the inking. But I like doing the inking because it adds for some more depth by adding different colors of ink, and I just like the way that that looks when I'm making my cards. So I'm going to ink up both of these borders, and now I'm ready to put the card together. So both of those border dies when I die cut them, I did cut them so that they were 8 inches wide, and I made them 8 inches wide so that they go right inside the stitched lines of that scalloped rectangle die cut piece. So I'll go ahead and add the first one down. I raised it a little bit so that I can have some height for the one underneath, and then I'm going to add the second one on top and just line it up right above the stitching line on that stitched rectangle die. And then I'm just going to lay out my scene with all of these stamped images. So I have Cinderella's carriage I'm going to put here on the hill at the top right of my card. I'll add Cinderella and the fairy godmother off to the left, and I'm going to add the mice so that they're looking towards Cinderella and the fairy godmother. And then I'm going to put a bird up at the top left, another bird at the top right. I'm not going to have room for the third bird because I do have a lot of stamped images on this card. And I did stamp out a sentiment, bibbidi bobbidi boo, and I cut each one of those words into its own separate rectangle, and I'm going to add that onto the card right above Cinderella and the fairy godmother. So now I'm just going to glue all of the images down to the card panel. Since I already have them where I want them, I'll just glue them down. So next, I'm going to color in the inside of the wheels on the carriage, and I want it to be the same color as that hillside border that I inked up with the Mowed Lawn ink. So I just put some of my ink on my acrylic block, and I'm picking up the ink with a water brush, and I'm going to paint that Distress Oxide ink onto the inside of those wheels, because I wanted it to look, instead of having that white through there, I wanted it to look like it had the grassy hillside through the wheels. I'm going to add the green ink everywhere that I think should have the green inside of that wheel. And then there's a few spots on the wheels where it actually has the pink sky in the background. So for those parts, I will color up pink. You can see I'm also going to color up some of the white area on the mouse's tail, just so that it has that green grass behind it, because there was a lot of extra white cardstock and I didn't want all that white showing. So I'm going to finish up these mice, and then I'm going to clean my acrylic block. I'm also going to clean my water brush, get all of that green off of there, and then I'm going to add the Seedless Preserves, the purplish ink, and I'm going to pick that up with my water brush, and I'm going to color over some of the areas where that purple pinkish background should show behind the wheel. So there's a little area there on the top of the left wheel, and then there's also a small area on the top of the right wheel. And I'll bring this a little bit closer just so you can see what that looks like close up. And now I'm ready to add this to a slimline size card base. And the last thing I'm going to do to finish up this card is I'm going to take my scrapbook.com gold glitter pops of color. I put some on the tip of my paintbrush, and I'm adding some to the magic wand. And I'm also going to add some to the gold areas of the carriage to add some glitter and sparkle to those images. So I'm just going to squeeze a little bit here out on a piece of scrap paper. I'm going to take my paintbrush, dip it in the pops of color, and then add some here to the bottom of the carriage. And since this pops of color dries hard, you want to make sure that when you're done with your paintbrush and the pops of color that you rinse your paintbrush out with some water right away, because you don't want it to dry on the paintbrush or your bristles on your paintbrush will be hard. I'm also going to take the pops of color, and I'm just going to put a little squiggly line from the magic wand towards Cinderella. And that'll just make it look like there's some sparkle and magic coming out of that magic wand. So you can see that a little bit closer. And you can also see the sparkle on the carriage. See all that glitter? I think that's so pretty. And I just love how this card turned out. I'm actually going to save this card for my daughter for her 17th birthday coming up here in August. She loves Cinderella, and when she saw me get this stamp set at the Scrapbook Expo, she wanted me to make her a card with it. So that's going to complete my Cinderella themed slimline card. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you like videos like this, please consider subscribing to my YouTube channel and turn your notifications on by clicking that bell button so that you can be notified when I release new videos. Thanks so much for watching, everyone, and have a great day. Bye-bye.